Hello, my name is Cassandra, and this is my community health needs assessment video where I will go through the assets, barriers, and opportunities that the Bridgeport community local to Sacred Heart has, in addition to a brief overview of Bridgeport history. Bridgeport, Connecticut is Connecticut's largest city. The city was incorporated in 1836, and in the 1850s, Mayor P.T. Barnum made Bridgeport an industrial epicenter, manufacturing things such as carriages, brass and cast iron fittings, as well as sewing machines, tools, and ammunition. In the 1970s and 80s, Bridgeport lost thousands of industrial jobs, leading to unemployment, pollution, drugs, and crime. Because of this occurrence, Bridgeport was never able to fully recover from this event, which has led them to some lasting barriers that still affect the community today. However, efforts are still being put in place to turn this around, and there are still opportunities for improvement. So some assets of the Bridgeport community. Bridgeport is known as the Park City due to its 35 public parks and over 1,300 acres of space. In addition to having green spaces and parks, Bridgeport serves as a transportation hub that connects various communities and industries, and also serves as a gateway to New England. Some historical significance as a traditional hub really shapes Bridgeport's identity and connectivity. And Bridgeport also has a diversified community consisting of many cultures, especially those of Black and Latino descent, as well as immigrants. So some barriers to the Bridgeport community. One huge barrier is low homeownership rate, which is 42% in Bridgeport compared to Connecticut overall, which has 66%, in the U.S., which has 64%. The housing cost burden rate is 53% in Bridgeport, which is much higher than Connecticut's 35%. In the U.S. overall is 31%. The poverty rate in Connecticut is 10%, in the U.S. is 13% compared to Bridgeport, much higher, 23%. The income and employment status ultimately impact access to healthcare, quality housing, nutritious food, and life expectancy. For example, life expectancy is approximately 77.7 years in Bridgeport, whereas in Connecticut overall it's 80.3 years. In the Bridgeport community, there's also less access to grocery stores and nutritious food. Purchasing a home is more attainable for advantaged groups because the process of purchasing a home has historically had racially discriminatory practices that continue to restrict access to home ownership today. This challenge, along with municipal zoning dominated by single-family housing, results in racial and economic segregation seen throughout Connecticut, also known as the housing divide. Housing costs also continue to rise because of municipal zoning measures that limit new construction to very few towns in the state. Meanwhile, wages also have been stagnated among lower income workers who are more likely to rent. And this has a greater impact on Black and Latino householders. Among renter households in Bridgeport, 59% are cost burden compared to 41% of owner household. And some factors such as stable housing, employment, literacy, and linguistic fluency, as well as environmental hazards and transportation, all impact the physical and mental health outcomes, as well as overall quality of life. Thus, the lower life expectancy in the Bridgeport community. In addition to this, income and employment status also drive differences between access to healthcare and the likelihood of getting preventative screenings and life-saving medicines, as well as to purchase high quality and nutritious food and housing. Two important opportunities for growth for Bridgeport include housing initiatives and combating food insecurity. Housing initiatives and policies can be put in place that limit municipal zoning measures and implement affordable housing policies so that people are not as cost burdened, which enables them to focus on attaining food security and healthcare, which are essential needs that many Bridgeport residents have to sacrifice due to being cost burdened because of the cost of housing. With combating food insecurity, although it is a difficult task, eliminating food deserts would be beneficial to ensure that Bridgeport residents have access to adequate nutritious foods by implementation of more farmers markets for nutritious food that is affordable. Overall, policymaking and spreading awareness can help combat these essential issues that greatly affect the Bridgeport community.